In the next 15 minutes, I am going to teach you everything you need to know to get started with running LLMs locally. We're going to learn how to use LM Studio to download models, adjust system prompts, and access the API programmatically. Let's get started. All right, so the first thing you're gonna do is install. I swear, those are not my searches. The first thing you want to do is install LM Studio, and the only limitation here is if you're on an Intel version of Mac, you're shit out of luck. So we have LM Studio for Linux. Here we go. We have Mac, but only the M series Macs, Windows or Linux, and I think I don't know if it's RPM or what Debian package. I have no idea, but we're gonna install it for Windows. When you have it installed, I highly recommend switching it over to power user or developer mode so that you can access the fine-tuning options. Next, you'll want to go into the Discover tab and make sure that you install and update the most recent compatible drivers. So this is really important, especially if you don't have an NVIDIA graphics card. So if you're on Intel or AMD, you're probably going to want to run these Vulkan based drivers. This is one thing that LM Studio has over Ollama. Ollama doesn't support the graphics card that I have, which is the 6700 XT. LM Studio does out of the box, so I don't need to do any hackish, command line to get it working. Next, you'll want to download a model. Now, the great thing about LM Studio is it's going to recommend relevant trending models, and it's going to recommend the right size for your hardware. So you don't really have to figure any of that stuff out. You don't really have to experiment and waste a bunch of bandwidth downloading these multiple gigabyte files. You can just jump in here. Now, here's a couple of recommendations I have right off the bat. First of all, Llama, really great for their size. So the 1B, 3B are Llama 3.2, the smaller ones. There's the Llama 3.1, which is larger. Qwen is really great. Qwen 2.5, Coder, Qwen 2.5, Instruct is really great for NCP usage as well as coding. So great local models there. I've used the 7B even Qwen 2.5 Coder, and I've had pretty darn good results for a local model. Of course, the most relevant right now, bunch of Gemmas, Gemma 3, it is a huge leap. Okay, so Gemma 3 has accomplished a lot with their 27B model. I don't know anything about their lower parameter models, but you may want to give this a try. So go ahead, pick your favorite. You can see this model can process image inputs. We have some different tags here. Architecture Gemma. You'll also see some of them will have tool use, and the green little tag here is GPU offloading. You want GPU offloading as often as possible. It is so much faster than CPU only, and when you're basically loading it into RAM, that is the limitation there. So grab whatever model you can, grab whatever quant you need, and have fun. So what do we have already? We have a couple of DeepSeek Qwen models. I did have the Gemma, but I don't have the VRAM for it. So I will show you in another video how to run that in AI Studio, free, unlimited, rate limited, but unlimited, free forever. Oh, and here you can see some tool use. This is the tag for tool use, so you can quickly identify that. Next, let's go ahead and load a model to talk to it. So probably this DeepSeek is going to be better for chat. I'm going to click a new chat. I'm going to select the model. And here you have a couple of options to play with. You can click remember settings. So if you find some settings that work really well for you, that will keep that option for all the new chats that you load with that model. I'm going to make sure the GPU offload is as far as possible. I'm going to raise the context to about 13,000 so that it can remember a little bit more about our conversation and can take more input. And I'm going to leave everything else alone. Now, the cool thing is you can also change different settings here in the middle of our conversation and save them as presets. So different system prompts. For instance, you can say you are a helpful assistant for XYZ purpose. You have some other settings here. Personally, I don't really mess with a lot of these. So mostly people will mess with temperature. Lower temperature means that it will be very deterministic, so the result will be the same as often as possible. Higher temperature is really creative, so let's just grab one of these and do a cool math proof. So we can check out the thinking. Now this is a 7B model running on a 6700 XT, which is a 12 gigabyte VRAM. So you can see that the tokens per second is decent. I mean, this is faster than you get in the ChatGPT interface or like one of the web interfaces. So the 7B on off-the-rack mid-tier gaming hardware seems to do pretty darn well. Now, the finer formatting isn't really working in this particular chat interface. For that, you might want to use something like Open Web UI. But this is great for playing around with some of the settings. So you can see that it finished, and the cool thing is we have some stats here: 50 tokens per second, 2,288 tokens, and 0.19 seconds to the first token. This is really great because sometimes it'll sit there and think for a long time. So pretty awesome results. I am not going to check this. I don't know why I clicked math proof. I'm sorry. But you know, you can see that it probably did a pretty darn good job, and it's probably right mostly. I'd give it an A. This is not really a model review. This is just how to get into LM Studio. So next you'll want to probably check out the API function. So if you go into the developer portion, you'll see if you've loaded already a model, you'll see if it's ready or not to be used. This is important because sometimes when you're calling models, multiple models, you may run out of VRAM. So this lets you take a look at what's being called, if different applications are calling models and it's not shutting down, if there is such a thing. I haven't really checked. That may be an issue. But you can see that there is a status running here, and we have an address here. So if we pop this into our address bar, we get, hold on, let me do something like /v1/models. So here we have the available models that are loaded up in the API interface. You can access this programmatically, Python, JavaScript, whatever you want, Rust if you're weird. But here are some other supported API endpoints. I think there's quite a bit more, but these are some examples. And then of course, I believe you can change the different settings as well for the purposes of the API access. So this, I believe, is independent from this. Here we have temperature set to 1, here temperature is still set to 0.8. So this chat interface is a client, this developer interface is the server, which is a lot easier to work with than Ollama. I know Ollama is really great. Huge shout out to them because they are the first on the scene, but I like graphical user interfaces. I'm sorry, I'm just not a command line nerd, and I just want to get through the work, not tickle myself. So anyway, that sounded like a dick thing I'll cut it out. That is how you get up and running with LM Studio. I hope that you learned something. If you did, like, share, subscribe. It helps me a lot as a small channel. I'm at 500 subscribers, which I never thought was possible when I started this thing. So thank you all for watching. Thank you all for subscribing. Have a wonderful day.